Henyard's leadership for South Shore. FBI has launched an investigation into controversial Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Dane Placco has been following allegations of her misspending and joins us now with an update. Dane.
Yeah, we've been reporting for nearly 2 years on allegations of corruption surrounding Henyard in her capacity as
ongoing scandal surrounding Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has taken a dramatic turn, especially now that the FBI is investigating her alleged misconduct. The investigation primarily centers on the Tiffany Henyard Foundation, with federal agents combing through financial transactions exceeding $10,000. As more evidence comes to light, the probe has rocked Dalton's political scene, causing alarm among local officials, particularly the trustees. Though many details remain tightly under wraps, unverified reports suggest that FBI agents have started questioning key residents in Dalton, signaling that the investigation is intensifying. Henyard's reputation, already tainted by long-standing allegations of using her position for personal gain, has now been further damaged by the federal investigation. Despite the inquiry being in its early stages, these developments are giving more credibility to claims that Henyard abused her office for personal benefit. As the investigation unfolds, Dalton residents are growing increasingly uneasy, fearing that more explosive revelations could be on the way. This uncertainty has already shifted the political landscape in Dalton, with several officials who once supported Henyard now distancing themselves from the brewing scandal. The effect on Henyard's political future is undeniable. Once hailed for her efforts to revitalize Dalton, she is now at the heart of a scandal that could ruin her career. The ongoing investigation, which focuses on potential misuse of taxpayer funds and political interference in business operations, has severely damaged her credibility and political influence. It's still uncertain whether Henyard will be able to recover from this blow. One of the most concerning aspects of the investigation is the possibility that Henyard misused public funds, particularly in relation to excessive spending on personal, security, and out-of-town travel, expenses that seem grossly disproportionate given Dalton's financial struggles. However, the most troubling part of the probe centers on the idea that Henyard may have used her power to influence local businesses. Business owners in Dalton have reported being unfairly targeted by her office, with delays in business licenses and permits tied to their political opposition to Henyard. One notable case involves George, the owner of Chasen House, who filed a formal complaint claiming his business license renewal was held up because he refused to support Henyard's re-election campaign. Similarly, Boone Wood, who owns a local eatery, alleged that his business license renewal was delayed for nearly a year, possibly due to his connections with trustees who opposed Henyard's re-election bid. These claims suggest a disturbing pattern of political retaliation and favoritism, pointing to the idea that Henyard used her office to settle personal vendettas and target those who didn't align with her administration. As the FBI investigation continues into Henyard's alleged misuse of public funds and political interference, the objectivity of the claims remains under intense scrutiny. However, the investigation has already cast a dark shadow over Henyard's leadership, with growing concerns about the transparency and fairness of her administration. Business owners in Dalton, particularly those who believe they were politically targeted, are beginning to speak out against what they see as a corrupt system that favors those who support the mayor. Local officials, many of whom have long disagreed with Henyard's leadership style, are also raising alarms about the damage her actions may have caused to Dalton's reputation and the integrity of its government. As more details emerge and the investigation progresses, the public is demanding greater transparency in the handling of public funds and accountability from their elected leaders. The growing skepticism surrounding Henyard's leadership is only intensifying, with more and more Dalton residents calling for reforms to ensure that public offices are used to serve the community, not to advance personal agendas. The investigation is expected to bring more to light and many are hoping it will provide clarity and much-needed accountability to Dalton's government. As pressure mounts, Henyard's political future seems increasingly uncertain. The public, particularly local business owners, is growing more disillusioned, with many accusing the mayor of making politically motivated decisions that have negatively impacted their livelihoods. Dalton residents are anxiously awaiting the outcome of the FBI investigation, hoping for resolution, transparency, and, ultimately, justice.
Which said it is policy for the agency not to comment on the nature, existence, or non-existence of any investigation that may be occurring. A public relations firm responded on behalf of the mayor, saying neither Henyard or the village of Dalton have received any subpoenas or been contacted.
The residents of Dalton, Illinois, have long felt that their concerns about corruption, poor management, and a lack of accountability were being ignored by local authorities. After years of financial hardships, self-interest, and leadership that seemed more focused on personal gains than addressing the community's needs, the FBI's investigation into Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration has sparked a renewed sense of hope among the town's people. For the first time in years, they feel there is a real possibility for justice and reform. Henyard's time in office, which some initially saw as a transitional phase, is now marred by serious accusations including embezzlement, the misappropriation of public funds, and a breakdown in the trust between local officials and their constituents. For years, residents of Dalton have claimed that their hard-earned tax dollars were being diverted to private interests rather than used for the public. Good. Now, the ongoing FBI investigation provides those who have long criticized Henyard's administration with the justification they need to demand change, signaling the possibility of a fresh chapter in Dalton's governance, one where integrity, transparency, and accountability are restored. Over time, Dalton residents grew increasingly disillusioned with the town's leadership, citing extravagant spending, political favoritism, and the neglect of essential services like fire department contracts. This neglect left the town's infrastructure in disrepair, with roads in desperate need of attention. The leadership, they felt, had failed to meet even the most basic needs of the community. Instead, it focused on questionable political appointments and lavish expenditures that seemed disconnected from the welfare of the people of Dalton. This persistent dissatisfaction only grew louder as the administration continued to ignore the concerns of its citizens. However, with the FBI now involved, a glimmer of hope has emerged. Many now believe the investigation could be the turning point, needed to break the cycle of inefficiency, favoritism, and exploitation that has gripped Dalton for so long. There is a growing optimism that the investigation will lead to the change residents have desperately sought, restoring both Dalton's reputation and financial stability, damage that has been done over years of mismanagement. Henyard's administration has raised serious questions about whether the local government has truly been serving the interests of all citizens or merely a select few. As the investigation continues, residents are becoming more vocal, calling for substantial reforms in how the town is run, particularly regarding financial oversight and accountability. Henyard's lavish spending, including a controversial trip to Las Vegas funded by public money, has fueled suspicions of corruption and abuse of power. This expenditure, along with other questionable financial decisions, has raised widespread concerns about how taxpayer funds were being misused under Henyard's leadership. Many residents are now wondering just how much of their hard-earned money was misallocated for personal gain. The FBI is now focusing on the Las Vegas trip, seeking documentation that could uncover the truth about Henyard's actions and the activities of others within her administration. For the residents of Dalton, the investigation represents more than just the possibility of legal accountability. It offers hope for the restoration of good governance. If the investigation uncovers the truth behind the alleged misconduct and leads to meaningful change, it could mark the beginning of a new era for Dalton. one where the needs of the residents are prioritized and public officials are held to the highest standards of integrity and responsibility. For years, Dalton residents have felt abandoned by their leaders, but now, with the ongoing FBI investigation, they see an opportunity to reshape the future of their town. They are hopeful that this investigation will restore their trust in local government and demand the kind of leadership that prioritizes the well-being of all citizens. With each new revelation, the call for change grows louder, and the hope for a future where Dalton is governed with honesty, transparency, and accountability is more within reach than ever before. As the investigation continues and the town's leaders are held accountable, the people of Dalton may finally have the chance to reclaim their community. This is their chance to restore the integrity that has been sorely lacking for so long. The FBI's investigation into Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration has uncovered a series of troubling allegations and instances of mismanagement that have left Dalton's residents feeling deeply betrayed by their local government. Central to the inquiry are travel logs and records tied to charitable foundations linked to Henyard's administration. These could reveal financial improprieties and abuse of power. The investigation is also probing accusations involving Andrew Holmes, one of Henyard's close associates, and allegations of assault and retaliation involving a former aide. These claims suggest that Henyard may have used her political power to exact revenge on critics or those who opposed her, adding even more layers of complexity to the growing scandal. This combination of serious accusations, coupled with growing scrutiny of Henyard's actions, paints a disturbing picture of a leader who put personal interests above the needs of the community. Furthermore, the investigation has drawn attention to Henyard's controversial hiring practices, which have been widely criticized as politically motivated and arbitrary. Many Dalton residents believe Henyard abused her power to reward political allies while punishing dissenters, creating an atmosphere of division and mistrust within the town. The ongoing pattern of favoritism and retaliation has only further eroded public confidence in the leadership, leaving Dalton more fractured and suspicious than ever before. As the investigation progresses, the people of Dalton are demanding answers and calling for reforms to ensure that their town's future is built on integrity, transparency, and accountability. Henyard's administration has been plagued by a severe lack of transparency, and the ongoing FBI investigation has only amplified doubts about her leadership and objectives. The town of Dalton is also grappling with severe financial instability, caught in at least 19 active lawsuits in both Cook County and federal courts. Recently, the town's attorney revealed that preparations are underway to abandon these lawsuits due to non-payment, raising alarming questions about the management of public funds and exposing the growing financial crisis under Henyard's leadership. The situation has ignited public outrage, as residents fear that Henyard's poor management could lead Dalton into even deeper economic decline. To make matters worse, Henyard's refusal to allow an independent, impartial investigation into her actions has only deepened suspicions surrounding her leadership. Faced with mounting calls for accountability, Henyard's veto of a proposal that would have allowed for such an investigation is seen by many as evidence that she is more focused on self-preservation than serving the people of Dalton. By obstructing the probe, Henyard is accused of trying to shield herself from scrutiny, further cementing the belief that her primary concern is protecting her own position, not addressing the needs of the town's residents. This refusal to step down, despite the mounting scandals, has only worsened the damage to Henyard's public image, leaving Dalton's citizens feeling disillusioned and frustrated with the lack of accountability. As the FBI investigation continues, Dalton finds itself at a crucial crossroads, with the chance for much-needed reform hanging in the balance. The investigation has exposed a significant breakdown in leadership, financial mismanagement, and a deep erosion of trust between the mayor and the people. She was elected to serve. Dalton's reputation, its financial future, and the public's faith in local governance are all at risk. How Henner and her administration respond to these revelations will likely determine whether Dalton can begin its long road to recovery or remain trapped in scandal and dysfunction. The arrival of the FBI has sparked a renewed sense of hope for those who have long sought justice and accountability. For the first time, the people of Dalton see a real opportunity to not only right the wrongs of the past, but to demand systemic reforms that will prevent such failures from occurring again. The investigation has uncovered deeply entrenched issues within Henner's administration, from financial mismanagement and politically motivated hiring practices to retaliatory actions against those who dared to oppose her. As a result, many Dalton residents now believe that this moment is pivotal. The chance for the town to break free from the cycle of favoritism, corruption, and political self-interest that has defined Henner's leadership. There is a growing sense of optimism that Dalton can finally turn the page on the past and begin the long-overdue process of reform. The FBI's investigation has evolved into more than just a legal inquiry. It has become a symbol of the community's demand for change and accountability. Citizens are now calling for a complete overhaul of the town's government structure, urging that the needs of the people be placed above political ambitions. Many residents are hopeful that this is a rare opportunity to reject Henner's toxic legacy and instead build a future based on principles of justice, fairness, and public service. This movement for reform goes beyond simply addressing past abuses. It's about ensuring that future leadership is held to the highest standards of integrity, transparency, and responsibility. Dalton's residents are more determined than ever to create a government that truly works for the people, not for the personal gain of those in power. As the investigation continues, the town finds itself at a crossroads, where the potential to leave behind the era of Henner's mismanagement and usher in a new chapter of ethical leadership and positive change has never been more possible. Though the road ahead is uncertain, the rising tide of hope in Dalton signals that the town may finally be on the verge of the transformation it so desperately needs. The residents of Dalton are rallying around their demand for transparency, accountability, and a government that serves the needs of all its people, not just a privileged few. This growing movement is fueled by a collective commitment to holding those in power accountable, ensuring that the government operates with financial integrity, fairness, and openness. For the first time in years, Dalton's citizens are beginning to feel a renewed sense of optimism. The FBI investigation offers them a glimmer of hope, a chance to hold their leaders accountable and begin the long-overdue process of reform. The stakes have never been higher, and as the investigation continues, residents are united in their belief that Dalton can emerge from the shadows of corruption and mismanagement. With a government that works for everyone, Dalton can finally build a future rooted in transparency, fairness, and accountability. The ongoing FBI investigation into Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration has sparked a powerful movement among Dalton's residents. They are no longer willing to accept a leadership defined by personal gain, corruption, and political self-interest. The results of this investigation will profoundly impact Dalton's future, and the community is determined that the lessons learned during this time of corruption will guide them toward a government that is truly representative, transparent, and accountable. As Dalton awaits the truth to come to light, the people are hopeful that it will mark the beginning of a brighter future, one where leadership is defined by its dedication to the well-being of all citizens, and where accountability becomes the standard for those in power.